And yes, I'm really pleased because it's been great that the Shrewsbury Sangha has been so welcoming. And one of the big boons of all this chaos and uncertainty with COVID is also that we can connect in new ways. And I'm really, really happy that we connect online with you. And also, like, my very dear friends from the Nordic order just pop in to support me give a talk. And, I'll just tell you they live in Finland and the north of Sweden. So how often would we, the bunch of us, meet otherwise? We wouldn't really. So anyway, so I'm really pleased that I got this spot for the beginning of the five Buddhas, because I feel in a way that I'm gonna introduce you to a bunch of new friends. And maybe some of you have met these friends before, but I think to me it feels a bit, I remember when I first got introduced to the idea of mythic figures in Buddhism, and I thought it was pretty weird. There was something to do with a figure with 1,000 arms and loads of heads, and I thought that must, that was just a bit too far out for my sort of place at the time. But I remember a couple of years later, and I think it was around 99, because it was in Cambridge, I remember being introduced to the Mandala of the five Buddhas. And I think I think it's true to say that ever since then, I felt like I've had this bunch of friends with me. I really had a great bunch of friends by my side in all sorts of versions and situations, and I'm still getting to know them. So I think in a way what you're gonna meet is to meet new beings in new ways over the course of these 5 weeks. And also what we did in the Danish Sangha, actually together with Padmachita Sangha in the north of Sweden, was in 2014. We had a little thing of ending the year with the five Buddhas on Facebook, because that's what you do when you're far apart. And I thought, well, we're going to revive that this year. So we were just checking in with each other about the five Buddhas and sharing inspirations and images. So you're really welcome to join that Facebook group. And we might even be able to get the link up for you somehow. I forgot to find it beforehand. Sorry about that. But I think there's a lot to, just, it's a bit like when you meet new people, you won't know all of it from the first day. You're going to meet people in one context or another context, and slowly you get a sense of them and a feel for them. And I think that's the case with the Buddha Mandala, really. Just to give you a slight sense of the context for it, which might be really boring, but other people really like that. Originally, the historical Buddha wasn't really depicted. There wasn't any images of the historical Buddha to begin with. There were sort of hints, like the footprints. You might have seen the footprints, especially if you've been traveling in Asia. So for quite a while, there wasn't any images of the Buddha. And images of the actual historical Buddha, like the one I have behind me, it only came later on. And in a way, you could say the five Buddha mandalas arose out of, first, it was a bit like the most important aspects of enlightenment that you find in loads and loads of text was like wisdom and compassion. So that was somehow drawn out, okay, these aspects are really important. But then out of that, and out of what we, must have been really deep contemplation and meditation of really, really experienced practitioners, it sort of became even richer. So sometimes it's talked about a bit like a beam of light coming through a prism, and the different colors really, really shine more brightly through that prism. So in a way, you could see the five Buddha mandalas as that, as sort of highlighting different aspects of enlightenment to make it more accessible for us. And the way the the 5 Buddha Mandala, or the 5 jhanas, as they're also called sometimes, has been passed down through tradition, is in the male form. But don't worry too much about that, because a lot of Buddhism has been presented in quite a patriarchal setting. So you do get male figures more than female ones, and it's not that. You can just change them, you know, it's fine. We have what we call the 5 pranyas as well. That Vasantra has made up a book about the female Buddhas, and done quite a lot of work to draw out different aspects of the female versions of these. But just find your own way. They're said to be androgynous, so neither female nor male, but just really enlightened beings. And I think as Western Buddhists, we have we have the freedom of finding out how to make tradition relevant to us, really. So I really invite you to play with that throughout these weeks. Yeah. And I think part of why the 5 Buddhas are also important is because we're so used to words and really understanding things. And that is also really important with the Dharma. But there's so much else that's important. Imagination and emotions are really important, because if we don't get our emotions behind our practice, if our imaginative life isn't full of the Dharma, our Dharma practice will be really, really dry. So just having something that can add some richness and some moisture, however you find that it works for you, is really important. And this is one way of doing it. For me, this world is incredibly rich. I draw a lot on it. Other people, it doesn't really do much for them. Again, there's no right or wrong. Just try out and see what you make of it. Yeah. So, and I mean, there is the book that everyone sort of turns to in Triratna. I don't know if you can see it. Is either Meeting the Buddhas, or this one which is called A Guide to the Buddhas. It was free on Windhorse publications a few weeks or months ago. I think you probably have to pay for it now. But it's like everyone who ever talks about the 5 Buddhas in Triratna will have some sort of reference to this stuff, because Vasantra is the guy who knows most about it, or at least have bothered to write about it the most. But actually you can find loads of resources on the web, and Wikipedia, other places are amazing for information. So if you find one of the Buddhas you're really drawn to that, just do some Google it, see what Google has to say, basically. Yeah. That will probably be enough about the 5 Buddhas in general. Is that okay? Yeah. I'll just have a sip of my tea. Okay, so my great pleasure this week is to introduce you to this Buddha that we call Akshobya. And actually, we should have really have met this morning at the time that I was meditating, because the time of Akshobya is dawn. And we said we always enter the mandala from the eastern quarter. So we're in the eastern side of the mandala, and we enter the mandala from the east. So imagine yourself in the east, the rising sun at dawn, just at that sort of crisp moment. At least here in Denmark, it's quite crisp at the moment. It's not frost yet, but there's a particular quality to dawn. You can just start to see things clearer. So this is the time of Akshobya. Akshobya is deep blue in color, and I can see some of you have dressed for the occasion. So Christine has got a beautiful blue scarf on, and I can see Sissel's background is very Akshobya-like. Sometimes when we've done this stuff in Denmark, people have been wearing socks the color of the Buddha for that week. So put on your blue socks this week if you like, yeah. So there's something about finding out what is blue. What is blue? Yeah. There's all these enormous connotations with all the Buddhas. So I'll just try and I'll only touch a little bit on some of the one that is to do with Akshobya. I think the main thing to say is that each Buddha is the head of a particular family. And for Akshobya, he's the head of this family. Yes. Have you seen one of these before? Yeah, there's a few nods. So we have, this is a Vajra. And I mean, you must have heard about it because you have Vajradevi and Vajrapriya. So if they've never talked about their names to you, you should get them to. This is a Vajra, yeah. And Akshobya is the head of the Vajra family. So he should actually be ruling around Vajradevi and Vajrapriya. Yeah. And the Vajra is a really cool thing to have. So you can hold it. Yeah. Sometimes you see them held as this, but that's not by Akshobya. Akshobya is said to hold it like this. I can't do that with this Vajra, but standing on the top of his palm in front of his heart. Like, yeah, I can't really show you here, but anyway, Vajra is a cool thing. So try and get hold of one if you can. And if you ever go to Adhisthana, there used to be an enormous wooden Vajra that was really beautiful. And there's something that's very powerful about a Vajra. It's very, very poised. Yeah. And one thing I really like about Vajras is that they help us with one of the aspects that Akshobya stands for, which is to do with confidence. Yeah. So there's something very confidence building for me about a Vajra. If you're going to do an exam, you can get small Vajras, put them in your pocket, or a job interview, or you've got a really, well, maybe, I don't know if they work for a date. You have to try that out and tell me. But I think they'll definitely work for a job interview. Or if you're gonna, do a 10K race or something, anything like that, where you need a bit of power, but also confidence. Because there is this thing about Akshobya that he's often connected with a particular incident in the historical Buddha's life. Does any of you know what that is? No? I know some of you do know, but yeah. So it's to do with the hand mudra. Buddhists, they got all these hand things, which is not because they're cool rappers from New York, but it's just because that's it shows something about their qualities. And the hand mudra or hand gesture that Akshobya is connected with is, where is this one? I'll just show you here. You see his hand? Yeah? Good. That's called the earth touching mudra. And the earth touching mudra is a lot to do with confidence. It's a lot to do with really, really just relying on how things are. And it's said to be connected to the story of the historical Buddha just before his enlightenment, where Mara, which is sort of all the non-enlightened forces in our mind, is said to come to attack the Buddha to be, and says, basically tries to send scary things after the Buddha and sends beings to seduce him, and the Buddha doesn't really balk. And then in the end, when nothing of that works, the Mara tries to poke at the Buddha to be, to see if there's any doubt left. And Mara says, what right do you have to sit here in the Vajrasana, the seat of enlightenment? And Gautama doesn't say anything, but touches the earth with his hand. Yeah. And what happens is that by doing that, he's calling the earth goddess to witness him, to say, I have practiced for eons and eons of lifetimes. I've practiced so much. I have every right to sit here because I have done the work. Yeah. So the Buddha to be doesn't argue. He just really shows this is the case. This is how it is. I have practiced. I have done all this work. And yes, I have every right to sit at the seat of enlightenment because of that. So in a way, calling the earth goddess to witness is a really powerful image. And there's something to me about the Vajra. If we hold a Vajra, it's like, that's really a powerful reminder of how things are. We're not gonna, you're not gonna mess with someone who holds a Vajra, basically. Yeah. And there's something that's really interesting with the earth touching and that confidence inspiring thing, because it connects to me a lot with Akshobya's wisdom. And one thing is that Akshobya is actually the head of the wisdom family. It's said not only the Vajra, but the wisdom family after 5 Buddhas. But the wisdom that he is particularly connected with is what's called the mirror-like wisdom. So it's the wisdom that sees things as they are. And in a way, there's that no nonsense aspect about it. And there is that sense of, sometimes reality can be talked about as nothing added. There's nothing added. And I don't know about you, but in my reality, there's loads of stuff added all the time. Yeah, all the time. I have views, I have interpretations, I have stories, I have anything really. I see things from a slightly skewed angle and it looks like something completely different. So our minds do stuff to reality all the time. And that's fine. That's what unenlightened minds do. It's not a problem. It becomes a problem if we think that that is reality. Yeah. So if we can train ourselves to hold things a little bit more lightly and not be so tight about this is how things are, but no, we will constantly have filters in front of us, because that's what it's like to live in samsara, to be unenlightened. But we can try and just help ourselves. Can I be a little bit more mirror-like in my way of just being in everyday life? Is there ways I can help myself be a bit more mirror-like? And when I was preparing for this, I was thinking, well, one way could be to perhaps just, when you talk about things, you could just practice being a little bit more precise. Not that everything has to be, totally correct, but just being a little bit precise in how we pass on information. That's being a bit more mirror-like. We could try and notice what's our emotional aspect or added on to something, and what's the situation itself. Yeah. So what might that look like? Could be conflict at my work. Yeah. There's always lots of sides of the story to a conflict, and just knowing that that's the case, I can try and see where's the emotional hoo-ha going on and what might have actually happened. Yeah. So all the emotions is real. It's real for the person experiencing them, but they're not ultimately real. They are not solid, and they change all the time. And that's the amazing thing about a mirror, because a mirror will change all the time. So if I could just let my experience be like a mirror, I wouldn't grasp. I could just let things change. I could let things be exactly as they are, moment to moment. And that's just incredibly hard with a non-enlightened mind, because I pull and I push and I want to do things differently. So what a relief if I just for a few moments can lean back and just let things happen just as they are. And then I start interpret and, you know, want things and all that. But then I can lean back a bit. And that's partly what we train in meditation. You know, we train just letting go of some of our reactions. We train noticing reactions arising, but not really letting them unfold too much. And there's something very, very beautiful about that, about just having, how can we just be like a mirror? How can we also be like a mirror for each other? So if I meet someone who's in a real hoo-ha about something, how can I just be a mirror and not get caught in that? So in a way, how can I be empathic, but without spinning off? Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is really interesting, because in a way, this is a very strange mirror. I can't hear you. I can't sort of sense you. I can just see all these small squares on a screen. So I have to just try and get, okay, what can happen in that mirror? You know, hopefully something comes through. But I think the mirror-like wisdom is really, really interesting, because to have that, it requires awareness. You know, it requires awareness, and it requires, the more we cultivate awareness, the more we can let go of our reactions. But without awareness, you know, it's really hard to do much. So if we can try and just invite more and more awareness in a really unjudgmental, just kindly way, the thing can just unfold without us being so caught up in it. So that's the mirror-like wisdom. Akshobya's elements, because that's important, that's water. And that is you know, that has that amazing quality of it can be mirror-like. It can be mirror-like. It can be lots of other things. I live by the sea south of Copenhagen, and I can tell you sometimes the sea is really, really not mirror-like here. But it still has that quality of being quite, it's not quite the right word, but sort of not bombastic, but you know, it's definitely very solid. You know, even if there's huge storm, water is really a big presence. And I think Akshobya is really a big presence. There's something, he's called the imperturbable one. And it's his animal is said is the elephant. And somehow I also associate him a bit with mountains. I find that sense of you can't push a mountain around. I mean, you can push at an elephant, but I don't think much is going to happen if you do. But so you have to, in a way, oh, I think there is a bit of an echo. Oh, thank you. You just have to imagine a bit, like you find your own images for something that's really solid, yeah. And sometimes if we are a bit in a storm, and I mean, I don't know what this year's been like for any of you, but I suspect if it's been just a little bit like mine or anyone I've talked to, this year's been quite turbulent. And we really, really, really have needed to find some sense of how to ground ourselves, how to stay connected. And to find that sense of sort of gravity in the midst of quite a lot of storms and a lot of uncertainty. And Akshobya is really, really good for that. Akshobya is great for counteracting anxiety, also counteracting wrong views, actually. And that sense of solidity, you know, of just standing by what you know is true, and what you want to, what your values are, what you want to live by. So there's quite a lot of different strands in the world at the moment, and in a way just finding our way through that and finding out what's true for me. What do I believe in? What do I stand by? Akshobya can be a great help in there, to have that sort of gravity of just really, really standing our ground and not be pushed about by things just because they happen or whatever. And again, a Vajra can be really helpful for that. So if you have a lot of anxiety, you can sit with a Vajra in one hand while you meditate and do an earth-touching mudra with the other. You know, it's just a sort of neat little trick. And if you are, I mean, just using the earth-touching mudra can be incredibly helpful. And that sense of how do you find gravity in your body when you are somewhere? So when you're sitting here, you might be slightly uncomfortable, you might be slightly bored or tired or something. Do you have that sense of center of your being, really being here and being still and being with you? So just finding ways to practice that, really. And the more you practice something, the better you get at it. So finding ways, and it can be in meditation. I mean, meditation is a great space to work with things, but it can be anywhere if you happen to go anywhere for the foreseeable future. I don't know. But, you know, it can be waiting in line at the supermarket. And I think actually what we can do with this is it's a real gift to offer to people around us, is to have a bit of solidity and a bit of groundedness, because there's so much anxiety around. And to just really meet other people with a sense of grounding is a real big gift. It's a really big gift. Yeah. So the whole thing of wisdom is also, it's said, the Vajra is said to symbolize that you have spikes on both sides of the Vajra. And it's said to symbolize in a way how on one side you have the enlightened quality, and on the other side you have the poison that becomes the enlightened quality with practice. And for Akshobya, the poison that can be transformed is sometimes talked about as hate or anger. So ill will, basically. And it's transformed into wisdom, into really seeing through things, into insight. So something is also connected with Akshobya is the quality of Kshanti. So I just say it as you're not supposed to say it, so you can hear what I'm talking about. But Kshanti is a Sanskrit word, and it's one of the, is it one of the I can't remember if it's one of the paramitas of the Bodhisattva. There is thumbs up coming. Thank you. Yeah, mental block. But yeah, anyway, Kshanti is the ability to endure things. It's the kshanti to be patient. It's the ability to not jump to conclusions, not get angry. Shantideva talks about it in the Bodhicharyavatara, you know, that in a way you should thank your enemy because they are your greatest helper for practicing Kshanti. So every time someone annoys you, you have a really great opportunity to practice forbearance and non-reactivity. And that might not be how it feels, but actually it's really true. If we can, you know, people are really nice to us. We don't need to practice forbearance, but people are really, really annoying. We do. And there is something about Akshobya in helping us do that. And also not just people, but the world can be incredibly enduring sometimes. And we are going to meet, you know, sickness, old age, death, and just suffering in general. But a really dear friend of mine struggles a lot with their health and is in and out of hospital. And I know that they use Akshobya whenever they have to go for examinations in hospital. And I use Akshobya when they are in hospital because I get worried. And I'm sometimes probably more worried than her, to be honest. But there's something incredibly impressive because she's just dealing with stuff in a very sort of matter-of-fact way. And when she talks about that, it's like, well, that is Akshobya. Just, well, you know, you're alive, you got to die, sort of thing. And not in a morbid way, but just in a matter-of-fact way. And I think there is something about Akshobya that can help us just sort of get used to those ideas. You know, if we mess up, well, we have to deal with the consequences. If we're alive, we're gonna die. You know, if we practice hard and we do our best, it will probably have a very positive effect. But that's not gonna save us from illness and old age and death. They're gonna happen anyway. So we will have to train ourselves in forbearance. And if you're anything like me, you can get annoyed by the dog next door or something. I realize the dog next door is incredibly nice, so now I don't get annoyed when it barks, but I used to get annoyed when it barked because sometimes it barks a lot. But I've learned forbearance because I'm now connected with the dog and it's nice. But there's something about if I can train forbearance there, you know, one day, I don't know when, I will have more sickness, I will have more ill health, and I will really, you know, have to go into hospitals. Who knows who of us might be hit by COVID and have to receive lots of help. So there's something about that sense of being prepared to forbear things that might be unpleasant without reacting too much to them. And I think Akshobya is just really, really good for that. And there's something that's, just that experience of reaching out and touching the earth, but also reaching out and touching each other. There's a sense of interconnectedness that's very real with Akshobya. I mean, I can't reach out and, you know, touch you. I can do this. But we are interconnected, and sometimes just reach out and touch, you know, the chair I'm sitting on is made by wood that's been shipped from somewhere, that's probably been sold in IKEA, and I bought it secondhand from somewhere. You know, those sort of reflections are wisdom reflections as well. So we're really, really, you know, in a way, part of learning to endure things is also learning that we're not on our own, that we're really, really deeply interconnected with each other and with, you know, life around us. And that's just very real. That's really real. So let's see if I've forgotten anything. Yeah, so in a way, I mean, this is obviously, you're hearing a bit of how my friendship with Akshobya, you can say. This is how some of the things that has happened over my connections with Akshobya over the years. One thing I thought about the mirror-like wisdom, which is really interesting when we spend so much time online, is that you could say mirror-like wisdom, if one way of practicing mirror-like wisdom is try to look in a mirror of yourself and see if you can just be neutral. Yeah. And if you can do that, I think you've got to the point of being close to enlightenment. Because what happens is, as soon as we see ourselves, we're really interested. Yeah. And I found a way to actually hide self-view when I'm on Zoom. So you can experiment with that, because as soon as there's a little box of me somewhere, where do you think I look on the screen? You know, there's like these 32 other people. And if there's a little box of me somewhere, me who I spend 24 hours a day with, I'm going to look at me. Yeah. So what I really experimented with is, okay, I have no idea what I look like when I sit in front of you. So I turn it off and say hide self-view. And yes, you can get it back. We talked about this in some study group the other day. You can get it back. You haven't disappeared forever. But it's very interesting what happens to ourselves when we suddenly see ourselves in the mirror or on the screen, because we get self-conscious. And that's, in a way, is just imagine what the world would look like if we didn't distinguish between what I look like and what the rest of you look like when I look on the screen. Yeah. So in a way, that's the difference between me and Akshobya. I can't just look at myself and see it as I see everyone else. I get interested. I have opinions. I don't, you know, I would think, oh yeah, do I have something sitting next on my face? I wouldn't think that looking at any of you. Yeah. So that really shows me where I am on my path of self-obsession, you could say. And that also shows me where I am on my path of just recreating the wheel of suffering. And I find that really, really interesting. It's incredibly funny because it's, you know, me, 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 me. And then you just turn it off and you just don't care. Yeah. So I mean, you can experiment with that. Also, sometimes it's very interesting if you spend time somewhere where there's no mirrors. I've spent time in some monasteries and also some retreat centers. They don't have any mirrors. You know, if you don't look in a mirror for a while, you just see what happens, really. Because when we use mirrors, we don't reflect neutrally. We reflect loads of opinions all the time. So you can, I mean, you can play with this stuff. You can play with this stuff, yeah. So let me see how I'm doing for time. Okay. I think what I'm gonna do is two things. And this, yes, any questions? Any questions? No. You can type them in the chat if you don't want to sort of speak. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. So Vajrapriya has disappeared, which is very interesting. Oh, he's coming back. Okay, yeah, good. Because what I did was, I'm gonna, this is our little tech test, which may or may not work. But when my friend was in hospital once, I thought, what can I do? What can I do? You know, it's, what do you need when you're in hospital? And what I did was I recorded an Akshobya mantra and sent it her. And it's, you know, way far from perfect pitch or perfect rhythm or whatever, but it gives you a little bit of sense of what Akshobya can sound like if you do the mantra. And what we might do a bit later, we're going to have some groups as you normally have, and then we'll do a little bit of meditation later on. But what I thought we could do is the mantra when you have it going is sort of overlaps. So if I'm going to lead it later, you can just do the overlapping bit yourself, or you can chant along with me. That's up to you. But mantras are really good. It's like a sound reminder of a bit different quality. So a bit like the Vajra or blue, you can chant a mantra and then you just instantly have that quality or that figure by your side. Yeah. And the more you practice it, the more they just appear when you need them. So what I thought, if we can try this Vajra, if you share your screen with the Akshobya image on it, so you just look at an image of Akshobya for a few minutes, and then we hear the mantra with the 2 parts, if you can. Is that possible?
Yes, here we go.
Om Vajra Akshobhya, 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 Om Vajra Akshobhya.
Thank you, Vajrapriya. I think that worked. Yeah. So I hope that gives you an idea, really, of just both what Akshobhya can look like and some of the feelings in. And just pick one in a way that is inspiring to you. Just pick one that's inspiring to you. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into breakout groups, as you normally do. And if you just need to stretch or whatever you need to do, just do that, please. And we're going to spend just under 20 minutes, I think, about 20 minutes. And what I invite you to do is, the question that I've thought I could pose to you is what helps you find confidence in challenging situations? So what helps you stay grounded, stay true to yourself, find confidence? Yeah. So if you feel like it, if you've had enough, you just not zoom out, log out, whatever you do. But if you're happy to stay for the breakout groups, I suggest that that's what we talk about, what we share. Yeah. and then we'll come back and finish with a short meditation.
Marvellous. Thank you, Advayasiddhi. That was very rich. So many different facets to these characters, and you brought them out with a lot of personal feeling. So Vajradev is just about to do the Zoom magic, I think.
Yes, so I'm just going to have a last minute. Oh, I know what. Last minute alteration. Okay. Excuse me.
So, well, I hope you had a nice time in your groups. We had a really nice discussion in the group I was in, so I hope the rest of you also got to sort of, you know, just chat a bit about these things and about what gives you confidence, really. And I really invite you to just play along with these ideas if you want for the next week. You know, make it a week of Akshobya. Choose something, wear blue, you know, think about the different qualities, something that inspires you. You know, put a picture of an elephant as the background on your phone or something. Yeah, there's lots of ways to get these into life. What we are going to finish with, which you normally finish with as far as I can tell, is a meditation. And I'm just going to lead it a little bit. And it's particularly, we're going to have just focus a bit on grounding, you know, really feeling the contact with the earth. And I think that, Priya, could you put the Akshobya picture up? Would that be possible? Just so you got something you can look at. And what we, so in a way, you might just want to sit and look at Akshobya and feel that effect in your body. But what I'm going to do, I'll lead us just through a little bit of grounding. And is it, oh, I think, okay, now the sound is fine. Yeah. Oh yes, also thank you, Pernilla, for putting that link in the chat. So if any of you wants to join that Facebook group, it's in the chat, or otherwise just ask one of us, you can get the link. But what we're going to do is we're going to spend about, yeah, just under 20 minutes, I think, in meditating. So basically the idea is to, you know, just find a way of being grounded. And I'm going to end am I going to end the meditation? No, I'm going to start the meditation with a bit of chanting. I think that'll going to work better. So basically, I'm going to chant the Akshobya mantra, and you can join in either chanting the same as me or chanting it, you know, opposites. So like you heard the chant that we played earlier. Does that make sense? Yeah. Or you can just, you know, mute the thing and look at Akshobya if that's what you want to do. It's up to you. And then I'm just going to guide us a little bit in how you can ground yourself and just sort of connect with your breath, really. But do what you need to do for this moment in time. So first, I'm just going to chant for a little bit to really get in touch with Akshobya, and chant along as you like. And then we're just going to sit for about 10 minutes afterwards, really grounding ourselves. So whatever is going on for you right now, however awake or tired you are, that's fine. This is where you invite Akshobya into. And just feel your body, where it's sitting or lying or standing, all the contacts, points of contact with the floor, with the chair, with your sofa, your bed, wherever you are. Really feeling the weight of your body, feeling your body taking the space that it's in. I mean, that experience of you sitting here like a mountain or like an elephant. You taking your space. You have every right to be who you are, right where you are. And to increase this sense of grounding and confidence, if you want to, you can just join the Akshobhya mantra that I'm going to chant for a little while, or you can just sit. It's up to you. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya Hum. Om Akshobhya. Om Akshobhya. So just before you finish the meditation, maybe notice, is there anything from this evening that you feel like you want to take with you? You can just let it land in your body. It might be an image or a word, something that gives you confidence to be who you are, do what you believe in. Just let it land. Land in your heart, in your being. Breathe it in. And then you can let your awareness expand a bit, just to be aware that we're the Sangha meditating together, that you're not alone, that we're connected. How amazing it is that there are beings out there who, like us, try to find meaning, try to practice awareness. And really know that this does have a big, big effect on our lives and on the world. So may this effect be of benefits, may it ease suffering, may it really be of use to beings. May all beings, whoever they are, wherever they are, be happy and free from suffering. May they be free from grief and all causes of grief. May they dwell in equanimity.